Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining the live stream. I hope you should be able to hear me by now. So today for the live stream, for the masterclass that we have planned on our Google News Initiative YouTube channel, we will talk about Google Earth and Google Earth Studio and ways of how you can explore that for newsrooms. Before I start, let me maybe just kind of introduce myself very quickly. I'm Louisa, nice to meet you. And I am a teaching fellow for the Google News Initiative. So that means that I give journalistic training. I'm based in Hamburg in Germany. So that means that my usual newsrooms that I kind of cover are in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And before I actually joined the Google News Initiative, I worked as a journalist as well. Since I'm based in Hamburg, Germany, I previously worked for a publishing house called Gruner & Jahr. They now actually kind of are part of RTL. And I worked for a magazine called Geo Magazine, actually. And I didn't work for the print version. I worked for the digital site and have actually a couple of examples from my newsroom days back later in the training. But as you can imagine, this is quite exciting for me as well as a previous journalist to kind of explore these tools and how they can help with digital storytelling. So yeah, now I would say probably let's dive right in and let's see what we have planned for today for this masterclass. So right off the bat, I think I can give you a bit more context about what the Google News Initiative plans to do and what the main goals are that we want to achieve with this kind of training. We have three main goals. The first one being developing your digital reporting skills. The second one is exploring new storytelling formats. And this is what we will try to focus on today in this masterclass. We have a couple of other masterclasses coming up as well. And there you will probably find some more information about our other goals as well. So if you're interested, then I would highly recommend you also check out the other masterclasses that we have scheduled over the summer. And then another big goal of the training from the GNI focuses on finding new ways to find misinformation, which is also particularly important in this specific election year this year. Now, also, maybe a good reference for you to keep in mind is that we have a news trainings website that you can also check out. So if you go onto the website g.co/news training, you will find additional resources and information about the tools that I will be talking about today, but also about some other tools as well. So essentially everything that the Google News Initiative has to offer in their Google Journalist Studio. So yeah, good to know. And then also probably good to know what the Google News Initiative tries to achieve with the training in general and the overall purpose. And that is that we, of course, want to advance the quality practice of advancing the practice of quality journalism more so. That means that, I mean, there's different ways of how we do that, essentially. It can be with the products that we kind of create specifically for journalistic purposes. There's lots of tools that can help journalists in newsrooms. That can be with kind of masterclasses like this. And our overall goal right now is to, kind of create a global news community. And that is also kind of the reason why we are not only, of course, doing this in one country, we're doing this in multiple different countries. To be exact, we're actually, in 119 countries helping newsrooms. And hopefully, I don't know, inspiring some newsrooms with the tools that we offer and the trainings that we give. We have worked with 6,700 news partners, hopefully even more by the end of the year. And we have invested 300 million in global funding as well. So quite exciting numbers for us. And with that, I would say let's take a look at today's agenda for this masterclass. So I'm going to cover basically all of the mapping tools that Google has to offer. However, I'm not going to go into too much detail with every single one of them because I fear that the timing would be maybe a bit too short. So we're going to start off with Google My Maps and take a closer look at that. Then I'm briefly going to talk about Google Earth and Google Earth Timelapse. So we're going to take a bit of a quicker look at those. And then I would say the main part of today's masterclass is going to be Google Earth Studio, which I personally think is a very, very good tool and is going to be very helpful for you if you try to enhance your digital storytelling and you're into video creation, doing that on social media, on your website. So yeah, this is going to be the main focus of this masterclass. All right, we're gonna start right in with one really handy tool that I personally appreciate a lot, and that is Google My Maps. Maybe some of you have worked with Google My Maps before. Maybe some of you have not. Essentially, what you can do is you can just kind of create your own My Maps. Or like your own Google Maps, essentially. You can either create your own kind of marks on a map, or you can even import your own kind of data sets onto a My Maps account, and then you can embed that into your website. Now, there have been multiple newsrooms that have used My Maps in their storytelling before. I'm going to share a couple of examples with you, and then I'm going to actually dive into my own My Maps account and kind of show you what that could potentially look like, maybe for you as well. So first up, we have an example from the Irish Times. They actually used My Maps to kind of map out a murder case, so a true crime case. In this specific instance, you could kind of, within the article, you could kind of, on the My Maps, check out the last traces of the victim in this specific case, and you could kind of follow along that crime case if you want to. So there would be some additional information within the My Maps that was embedded into the article on the Irish Times. Then another example, we have just come out of Pride Month, so maybe a bit too late, but still wanted to include it here. This was actually a newsroom in Argentina that decided to include this kind of My Maps into their article for Pride Month and kind of showcase where in Argentina you were able to celebrate Pride. So yeah, you can see here, this was actually in 2018. I believe that they have also kind of redone this in recent years as well. But this is just an example to showcase. And then I have another German example, which was an article from the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. And they kind of did an article on bike initiatives and where they are in Germany and why they're gaining momentum and what they actually stand for and what they want to do and achieve. So they decided to embed a My Maps link into their article that just kind of gives you relevant information about the different bike initiatives. So you could just kind of click on them and find out more information. Now, I already told you I'm going to kind of showcase what my personal My Maps now looks like to give you a bit more context. So I'm going to switch tabs right now and give you a little bit of a glimpse. So you can see here I have 4 different maps, and I'm going to jump right into this one that is actually my geo research that I did in Ireland. So I mentioned this in the beginning that before I joined the GNI, I was working for a newsroom called Geo Magazine, and what they focused on mostly was travel, science, sustainability, a lot of photography. Those were like the key elements that were quite valued for the newsroom. And the editor-in-chief back in the day, she asked me if I wanted to do a story on outdoor activities in the south of Ireland. And I, of course, jumped on the opportunity and I was excited to do it. And I was there, I think, for like 5 days. And I did all of the outdoor activities that you could potentially do in the south of Ireland. And I ended up writing multiple articles about it. They all ended up online. And one of them was just like a very, I'm going to say like service article, right? So like a plain article about like, hey, these are the different activities that you can do. This was the pros, that was the cons, something like that. And if I had known that something like My Maps back then existed and that I could just very easily embed this into my article, then I would have for sure used it. And this is what the the mind maps could have looked like. So on my first day, I actually climbed the highest mountain called Karantu Hill. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I don't know. Yeah, what you can do, you can create your own kind of spots on the map, and you can add some text if you want to. I here kind of just added a little bit of an anecdote in German, you can see. I added a couple of pictures. Those were actually pictures that ended up in the articles. This might even be a very good way of kind of adding pictures that did not make maybe the final cut of the article, because the photographer that I worked with on that specific story took loads of amazing pictures, and we couldn't all showcase them. Yeah, the Devil's Ladder was kind of like the way down that we took. It was a very intense hike, at least for me. And then as you can see here on the right side, I also on the next day, after climbing for an entire day, decided to do a mountain bike tour. When you look at it from bird's eye view, it doesn't look very hard and not very hilly. I can guarantee that it was actually quite hard, but it was also beautiful. As you can see here, we stopped in the Gap of Dunlow, for example. That was quite beautiful. So yeah, I also did surfing, I did kayaking, I did horseback riding. Like, I did a lot of it. But yeah, this is what a mind maps could have looked like. And now if I want to embed this into my article, onto my website, then I can just click here onto the 3 dots. And then, excuse, this is now all going to be in German on my laptop, but it might look different on yours. So here it says embed into my website. And then I can just easily kind of embed this kind of mind maps onto my article. And then we actually have another option, which is to export a KML file. I'm going to do this, and we're going to come back to a KML file actually later when we're jumping into Google Earth Studio. So here I have the option of either kind of exporting the entire map. In my specific case, I kind of want to just export my mountain bike tour to emphasize on that. So I can just export the KML file. KML stands for Keyhole Markup Language, I believe. So yeah, if I just click on download, then it's automatically going to appear in my download order or folder. And then we will come back to that later. Another thing that I want to mention on my maps is that you can also import data. So I had a journalist recently ask me, she did a story about trash and trash dumps in Germany, and where all our trash was kind of like being collected. And she had a whole data set ready from all of her research that took her quite a long time. And now she wanted to visualize it. And she said, you know, if I actually were to put every single icon down on the map, it would probably take her ages. And she was wondering if she could just like upload it. And you can do that. You just have to make sure that there's also a latitude and longitude in your data set. That is kind of important. So Google My Maps knows where to kind of stick the little needles and have your little points on the map, if that makes sense. But other than that, you can import your data sets right here. They need to be in a CSV file, and then you're kind of ready to go. I have another example of this, if I can just quickly show you right here. So kind of coming back to that whole election topic, because as we know, this kind of year's very big on elections, and a very important election year with the UK election happening actually today. So you can find loads of data sets for free if you maybe just also want to check out Google Dataset Search. Like I did here, I was just kind of looking for polling stations in Vienna, for example, and I found this data set that was just available to use, and I imported it onto my maps, and that would be another option of how to visualize your data. All right, now that I've actually kind of downloaded my KML document, I will come back to that in just a second. But before we actually do that, I'm going to jump back into my my presentation right here, and I'm going to continue with Google Earth. Now, I mentioned in the beginning that I'm not going to go into too much detail on Google Earth because I'm sure you've probably heard of Google Earth before. You've probably also used Google Earth. You can also create your KML files with Google Earth. So that is another option that you can comfortably do that as well. And yeah, if you have the time later on after this masterclass, I would highly suggest you look into one specific story that I'm going to share with you right here. It's called Finding Home. It was done by Times Magazine, and they actually decided to follow 3 refugee families throughout 1 year and kind of document their journey and their story. It's a very powerful story, and I think it showcases Google Earth really well and what you can do with really good storytelling on it. So yeah, I have a little bit of a glimpse into this story right here. So what Time Magazine decided to do is they just kind of showcased what the journey looked like and which kind of areas they decided to take or do by car, which ones they decided to do with a boat, which ones they even maybe decided to walk. So yeah, very powerful story. And if you have the time afterwards to maybe check it out, I would highly recommend. Then we're going to take a quick look into Google Earth Timelapse. Also, I already mentioned, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but this is the right tool for you if you want to showcase how our Earth has changed in the last couple of decades. Now, Google Earth Timelapse uses satellite imagery, and essentially you can go back up until the year of 1984, and you can just kind of look at every place on Earth that you want to and that you have the coordinates for, and you can just kind of type it in, and then you can see how this specific place has changed over the course of years. And yeah, I think it kind of shows the effect of climate change, of course, very drastically. There's some areas where it shows more heavily than in others. But yeah, this is also overall a very, very cool tool. It's also free to use. You can use it in your browser, and then you can also embed it and share it if you wanted to. There's also a 4K library available with Google Earth time-lapse footage that's already pre-made for you. So you can also check that out if you want to. You'll find a lot of like video resources already edited for you. That can be quite interesting as well. Now, with our last step of this kind of masterclass, which is also going to be like the main focus of the class, right? So I wanted to make sure to have a lot of space left for this specific tool. This is going to be Google Earth Studio, a tool that I wish I had known a lot sooner working in a newsroom, because essentially what you can do is you can create your own 3D animations and videos with this specific tool. And it's actually very easy to use if you kind of play around with it and kind of understand the gist of it a little bit more. So yeah, you can create your own animations. There's also some kind of quick starts that you can use. I'm going to show you in just a second what that exactly means. But it's actually, even if you don't have any experience in like cutting or editing videos, then this might be also quite easy to use with the quick starts as well. And then you will have broadcast quality. So that's also maybe a very good thing to keep in mind, is like you can use this and even broadcast it, because the quality of it is actually really good. So yeah, I think that's probably my good point to lean into this and kind of show you how Google Earth Studio works. So what you're going to do is, if you have not yet had access to Google Earth Studio, you need to kind of sign up for it. You just kind of like request access, and then it's probably going to take you maybe a couple of hours, maybe a day or so before you actually get access to it. And then you're free to use it. So yeah, this is what you're going to see if you actually gained access to Google Earth Studio. This is what it's going to look like. Also here, keep in mind, mine is now in German, but yours might display a different language. So yeah, you either can open a project if you want to, but because we don't have one yet, we're going to start from the beginning. So either we just kind of like have an empty project, a whole new project, or I just mentioned there's also something called quick starts. So if we click on that little arrow, it's going to take us to the quick starts. And here we can see that there's a couple of templates, I'm going to call them, that we can use. So we either have a zoom, we have like a circle, we have a point-to-point animation, a spiral, and then we also have like a kind of flying in and then circling. For now, I think I'm going to use the circle maybe to just showcase an example. So then now that we've decided, we just click on start. And now we can choose one example that we kind of want to animate, right? So I'm based in Germany. I already mentioned that. And as you probably all know, the Euro Cup is currently happening in Germany as well, which I live in Hamburg. Sometimes it can get quite loud with a lot of soccer fans in town. But I believe, I'm not the biggest soccer fan, but I believe that the last final game is actually going to be in Berlin in the Olympia Stadium. So maybe let's just do this one for our purpose or for our example right now. So this is the Olympia Stadium. This is where the final game of the Euro Cup is going to happen. I believe it is like mid-July. Don't quote me now, but yeah. So yeah, I think this view looks kind of nice. So I just kind of adjusted it maybe in height and angle. And then I'm just going to click on that green arrow and say, yep, looks gorgeous. And so here we can see what the animation looks like. We can even change a couple of things if we wanted to. We can change, make it a bit wider maybe, like so. Maybe go a bit deeper, like this. But I think this looks quite nice. We can also choose in which direction the camera should go, but I think this looks quite nice. So yeah, let's just stick with this one for now. Then we can kind of accept it. Currently, this is 50 seconds long. In my personal opinion, it's quite long. So maybe shorten it to like 25 seconds. So it's a bit quicker. And then this looks quite nice. So then we can accept it. And then this is actually what the whole browser concept of Google Earth Studio looks like. So here we can, of course, change some more things that we kind of still want to alter a little bit. Yeah, here we have the whole preview. This is our exact time frame. And then we have like all kinds of different things that we can change about the camera, like the angle and so on. What I like to do is kind of add a couple of attributes as well. So we can do that right here. You can see we have something like point of field, I believe would be the translation. And here we could have something like daytime, which I sometimes like to adjust as well. So let's maybe for this purpose kind of showcase what a different daytime could look like, because usually the games are more like in the evenings, the Euro Cup games. So if we go now all the way to the bottom here, it just kind of says time, and we can pick a specific time and date. Now, because we're in summertime, let's kind of say something like 6:35. Ooh, look at that. Now we have like a bit of a sundowner atmosphere, right? I believe that the game is probably going to be in the evening around, like, usually they start at like 6 or 9. So maybe this is like a good timing to actually have a nice little sunset vibe. So yeah, if we are actually happy with this and we kind of just want to continue now and get our video file, then we would click on render. Now here we can give the whole thing a name. I'm gonna just say Olympia Stadium. Here we can, of course, also change the dimensions again. This can be any dimensions that you wanted to. So you can also really work with like social media content. You can do vertical videos as well that could be beneficial for your YouTube Shorts or Instagram or TikTok, you name it. Here we have the option of kind of placing the credit. So the little Google Earth sign. I think actually on the right-hand side looks like it could potentially choose a different one if I wanted to. Now, if we scroll down, there's actually another option that we can specifically work with After Effects as well. So it can kind of export as an After Effects file as well, which makes it really handy if you want to like add a certain animation to your videos and so on. I don't know if you work with After Effects or if you have worked with it before, but this is also quite a very handy option to do so. All right, and if we just kind of click on send, then it's going to render our video into the cloud. It tells us right here, we can pick a different option of where the video should render, but I think the cloud is just fine for me. And then it's probably going to take a couple of minutes to render the video. So yeah, because we want to have a stable internet connectivity, I'm just going to not render it for this purpose because it's going to make up my internet maybe a little bit slower. So yeah, now let's kind of dive a little bit deeper, right? This was just like the quick start portion with Studios. There's so much more that we can do with it. So I'm going to start again, actually, and take you with me as well. So we're going to jump back to our first screen, our first starting point. And this time we're actually going to choose an empty project. So here we have exactly like similar options of customizing it, like just in the render portion. So this one I'm just going to say is my mountain bike tour that I did in Ireland, because as you remember, we downloaded a KML file for it. So just a quick note right here, we have the option of choosing Earth, or we could also create 3D imagery for the moon or for Mars. But because it was a mountain bike tour in Ireland, I'm going to stick with Earth right now. Also here, we can change the dimensions. We can change the length and decide if we want to focus on frames or a time code. I personal preference, just kind of go with a time code. I think it's easier. So maybe let's just say I want also 25 seconds. And then we can choose a frame rate. Here, I would probably suggest that if you plan on editing this video with the Google Earth Studio video with a different video afterwards, probably like please just kind of use the same frame rate as the other video that you're planning on using. I will probably go for 50 frames per second because I think that's quite common and should work really well. So this is now our starting point. You can see it looks really similar to what we've had before. Here we have all our attributes. Here we have Earth, and now we can just choose kind of either the places in Ireland that I visited, or, and this is what I'm going to do now, I'm going to share with you, we can just straight import our KML file. Now we can do this two different ways. Either we click on File and then we click on Import and Overlay KML, or you can see right here on the top corner, it just says Overlays. So if I click on this and say KML Import, I can choose it from my computer. I can import my KML file. Now, something happened. We can see that on the left side, but don't be discouraged because you don't see anything yet. You need to double click on it. If you click on the overlay, then this is what we can actually see. We can see there's like two little dots. This one was actually my starting point from the mountain bike tour that I did, a pretty viewpoint of it. But let's say I kind of think they don't look so cute, so I can just kind of take them off the layer and make them disappear. Maybe I want to keep the little line to emphasize on my mountain bike route that I was taking. Yeah, and then I can kind of start to play around with what I want to visualize here. As you can see, actually, this is actually a good example. The place where I started was a small town called Killarney, and it's not yet built in 3D on Google Earth. This, of course, can happen. You know, not every place is yet rebuilt in 3D on Google Earth. One day, hopefully, it will, but for right now, that's not the case. But usually, when it comes to like mountain sides and stuff, you will find them that they're like 3D. So we can see that here, for example. Wait, there we go. So this is actually the route that I was taking. Now, I'm gonna take this maybe to this side to not have it bother me. On the left side here, I already mentioned we have like the different options of what we kind of need to focus on in our frames. So if I just kind of choose a frame that I like this, maybe this can be our starting point, and I click this little button here at the top, then it's going to secure all the keyframes for me along all those different attributes that I have. And now if I kind of use this cursor, I can step forward in time. So like, let's say after 2 seconds, and now I can choose a new frame. I can say, okay, I want after 2 seconds for the camera to be around here. So then I'm going to secure this as well. I'm going to step a couple of seconds in and just use a new frame and say maybe this looks kind of nice. So then let's take another step forward, maybe zoom in a little bit more and kind of secure this. And then, oops, go maybe like this. It's really just like I don't want to say tedious process, because actually this is quite quick. But it just needs a little bit of playing around with. So I'm going to kind of go over the mountain like this. And then maybe change the angle a little bit. Maybe do even a little bit of a turn right here. Like so. Yeah, I think this looks probably all right. Okay, now let's see if what we created actually looks half decent. So we can here click on play and see what we have done. This actually looks already quite good and not too abrupt. Maybe it's even a little bit slow, but I think in general, this looks actually quite nice. So yeah, I think this looks actually quite decent. So now what we can do, let's say if there were to be like some kind of abrupt like zooms or something, we can click into each specific attribute and just kind of see if they're all smooth. Usually I would say if there's like something that's not very streamlined, then we can streamline it here. So for example, I don't know, maybe this one right here. We can just kind of adjust that if we wanted to, for example, and see if it looks kind of smooth. Here, for example, we can kind of maybe streamline this a little bit as well, like so. Make it a bit smoother. Just kind of figure this out. Okay. This looks already quite good. Here we can adjust the height. So as you can see here, there's like quite a significant kind of drop, and then it goes back up a little bit. So here we could maybe, I don't know, turn it, make it also a bit more streamlined. So you can really play around with it. And my suggestion is just kind of if it looks quite wonky, try to make it a bit more streamlined in general, and then your chances of having a smooth video will automatically increase. And then another thing that you can also change is, let me just kind of click out of this, just kind of mark all of the steps that we've created and do right click on it. And here it gives us different options of what we can choose as like easing wise. So I would probably just click on automatic easing, and then it will hopefully make the whole process even like a little bit more smooth as well. Yeah, so I think this looks already really good and quite nice. So this would be a really good way of showcasing that my mountain bike tour in Ireland actually was quite hilly and actually quite intense. It took me longer than it looked on in the bird's eye view. So yeah, again, same process. We could just render this right now. Also, what we could do is, of course, we could take out the little blue line as well if we wanted to. If we just wanted to kind of use it as a guide, that would work as well. So yeah, now before I actually kind of end this section, I'm going to jump into yet another example. In this one, we're actually going to focus a little bit more on how we can make Google Earth Studio footage look a bit more drone-like. Because I've actually seen a lot of newsrooms use or create very beautiful Google Earth Studio imagery and kind of say that they're almost like fake drone shots. And I kind of played around with it, and I feel like there's a couple of tips and tricks that we can do to kind of create a drone-like visual. So I'm going to start off again with a completely new project. We're going to jump back actually. Well, I'm going to call it drone shots for now. I'm going to set the time code. Yeah, 15 seconds is fine. I'm going to go with 50 frames per second as well. And then we're going to jump back actually to the Olympia Stadium. But this time we're going to go and try to make it look a bit more drone-like. So here, for example, instead of kind of circling it, I'm going to kind of zoom into it a little bit. So now here's my personal tricks that I kind of figured look a little bit more like a drone shot. Again, we are gonna add a couple of attributes. So here we have the attribute of field of, like, what's it called in English? Like field of view, I would probably translate it. And then at the bottom right here, we have something that's gonna make us enable us to tilt the camera a little bit. So I'm going to select this one as well. And now if we actually kind of look here, we have a little bit of the, like the view of field that we can kind of select. So right now we see 20%. In my personal opinion, if we create this view, it's more of a like fisheye effect. And for some reason, I think that a lot of drones actually have that. So I think this already looks kind of cool. You can see actually a lot more with it. So I'm going to select this. I think that maybe it's a bit much, but maybe let's do 55. No, I prefer the other one. It looks a bit cooler. So let's do 65. And then I'm going to choose my first frame again. This time I'm going to choose this one. And then after a couple of seconds, I'm going to zoom in and kind of tilt it a little bit. And now, one thing that I personally think makes it look a bit more like a drone shot is the tilting of the camera, because most of the times drones don't really have like that very straight view to it. Sometimes the camera just tilts, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to tilt the camera like a little bit, maybe to the right. And then I'm actually going to secure my attributes here, my frames, and then we're going to kind of zoom in a little bit and tilt the camera to the other side just ever so slightly. And then select our frames. And then we're going to zoom in again and tilt the camera maybe to this side. And then here we're gonna just really zoom into the Olympic sign right there. And then tilt in this direction, this time a little bit more drastically, because right now then we're going to just like take a flight to the right side and then just kind of, oops. I hope I don't mess this up right now, but there we go. Okay, let's take a look at what we've created. So looking back on it, you can see, well, this tilt was a bit much, but don't you worry, we can all fix that later on. So now if I kind of see here, I click into it, I can already see, oh, there's something that's a bit off. So I'm just gonna change this one, make it a bit more streamlined. Okay, so we kind of don't have that step back that was there before. This one actually looks quite all right. This one looks okay as well. That's just like the height of it. And then, yeah, this one is a bit much. So maybe let's just streamline our tilting here. So this one was a lot. Maybe just make it a bit smoother. And then this one also definitely. Oh, maybe even smoothing it out like this. Okay, I think this looks quite nice. Okay, so let's look at it again. And then maybe, hopefully, we have created something that kind of looks like a drone shot because it has a bit more movement in it. I mean, you'll be the judge of that, but I think this looks actually quite nice. So now the final thing that we can do, we can just kind of look at the stadium right here, right? And then we can just kind of do right click and then choose this as a target, which hopefully will mean that now every single view that we have chosen will kind of focus on the stadium. We'll have kind of like the stadium in its view at all times. So maybe now that the view is a little bit more stable and kind of a bit more secure and a little bit more steady. So yeah, this is what could potentially make it a bit more like a drone shot, like a potential drone shot. So yeah, this is Google Earth Studio. I hope there was some helpful information in this, and I hope that this was quite a nice tutorial for you to follow along. I don't see that we have any questions so far. So with that, I think I'm just gonna jump back to my presentation. And in the last step, I'm going to show you a little bit of a video of Google Earth Studio, which can show you the full potential behind it and what you can actually do with the tool. That is actually quite impressive. So I'm going to play this. Oh, actually, before that, I have a couple of examples from other newsrooms that have used Google Earth Studio in their storytelling as well. This one is actually quite recent. This was done by a Danish newsroom. And they have kind of created a story called Nordic Ways, because there's actually a town called, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, Ulst. And right close to the city, there is a like a pile of contaminated soil that slowly kind of, the wind is kind of blowing it onto the city. And yeah, they created a very nice visual on Google Earth Studio with it. And then another example, you might have even seen this. This was done for the funeral of the Queen in UK. Sky News decided to kind of create a route of the funeral of the Queen and where they were going to pass in London. Yeah, so maybe something to keep in mind is that the lettering that you see right here, that was actually edited in later on onto the video, as well as like if you want to have a route and like animate it, that it kind of like follows the whole line. You have to edit that later on in After Effects, but other than that, the whole visual in itself was made with Google Earth Studio. All right, and with that, I'm going to jump into the video and kind of have you check out what is all possible with Google Earth Studios and what you can actually do with it.
Personal best times carrying momentum at this point of the track will be key.
乗せたロケットが鹿児島県種子島宇宙センターから打ち上げられます。このロケット
U.S. women's national team will be celebrating their record-setting third Women's World Cup trophy in the 5 boroughs, with the ticker tape parade today in Northern Ireland.
Great. All right. So as you can see, you can really get like high quality imagery out of that and really zoom in quite up and personal, which can also look quite cool. So thank you so much for joining this masterclass. These are the tools that were mentioned in this specific session. I want to remind you again that we have a news trainings website that you can reference to if you want to, where you will also get some more helpful information. And then also you can leave feedback on this specific link, so g.co/newsinitiative/cert, and you will also be able to get a certificate. So yeah, that's your option. You can get a certificate or you can not get it, but if you want to, you will just like leave a little bit of feedback and then put in your email address, and then you will receive a certificate via email that is sent to you. All right, so if there are not any more questions, then I believe, yeah, I think then we're ready to go. Again, thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a lovely day, and come back for the other masterclass sessions that are still coming up in the next couple of weeks over the summer. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.